myself. I've been a man. Okay. I'm known as Vengeance, or Ben for short, a Texan centipede, and polymorpher. I'll explain the rest of that at the end of this. I've been a member of the fandom for over 3 years, so I know my stuff, kind of. I'm an aspiring traditional artist, shameless plug. All art featured in this presentation is drawn by myself. And now, why this is important, this is a huge thing. Most people are misinformed about insects. They don't get the right idea about them. They think they're creepy crawlies and whatever, that's something to be scared of. They're much more the opposite of what you think about them. They're very, very important, and they need some recognition for it. Using and being more appreciative of Arthropod characters will allow artists new bounds of creativity and help them make more money. You get more characters, you get more opportunity, you get more money. And there's severe lack of characters among the fandom that are insects. I don't know what's up with that. Now, why insects? The evolution dates back 480 million years. One of the oldest, even older than reptiles. Eat your heart out, dragons. The first ever to fly. Eat your heart out, dragons. Survived several mass extinction events and may have caused a few as well. Their purpose built to fight and survive. Eat your heart out, dragons. And some species are quite beautiful, you know. And astounding abilities on an anther scale. Eat your heart out, everyone. Insects in history, to name a few. Seppa, the Egyptian spirit of protection. I know it might be a male, it might be a female. I've found conflicting information. It has an entire road leading to Cairo named after it, and no one seems to realize that. It took the form of a centipede. It's a spirit that protects the dead. The Myrmidons, you may know the Iliad, Greek legend. A legendary people native to the region of Thessaly, created by Zeus from a colony of ants, commanded by Achilles himself during the Trojan War. And butterflies. In Japanese culture, butterflies are a symbol of change and a symbol of the soul departing from the body. Now, what do insects do? They're good at pest control, they do predator control, vegetation control, accelerate biodegradation, soil tilling and fertilization, production of delicacies. This is a huge one. Bees and stuff like that, honey ants. In fact, some of them are delicacies. I'm not going to discuss that. Now, insect lifestyles break down. The vegetarians, that's self-explanatory, you know. Tides of death, colonies, super colonies, and hives with hundreds of millions of warriors loyal to the queen. Vicious commandos, specialized predators that are very good at what they do. Myself. The vegetarians. Insects belonging to this class are often built tough. Instead, they have evolved, are not often built tough. They have evolved to be elusive and cunning. Butterflies, moths, caterpillars, etc. They aided biodegradation as well as dispersal of seeds. This is a huge one. Bees and stuff like that. This is what keeps the earth alive. And typically very beautiful and colorful. Now, there is a downside to this. The mainstream insects. Show of hands, who here has a moth character or another insect character? I'm going to bet it's a butterfly, moth. No? What is it?
No, I used to have a flatword.
Keyword used to. Now, tides of death. This is where it gets more exciting. Now, insects that operate large scale. This group consists of ants, termites, and some species of spider. Yes, some species of spider operate in huge colonies. I know it's kind of scary, but it's really cool. Insects of this group have evolved to be less independent, hunting in mass. There's a species of ant that's native to Africa called the driver ants. These ants don't even have eyes. They go around destroying everything in their path without even seeing where they're going. They just smell things. And some species are highly intelligent. Paper wasps, they actually show problem-solving skills. And other ones, they just devour everything. The vicious commandos. This is my favorite one of all. Now, lone hunters, they're the titans of the arthropod world. Centipedes, scorpions, stuff like that are very, very adept predators. They have lived for millions upon billions of years, and they've descended from the first things to crawl out of the primordial soup, crustaceans. This is a huge one because crustaceans are basically the grandfather of the insects. They stayed with the water. Insects, they stayed out of the water, and that's probably why they shrank to such a small size. Although in BC, they were probably like the size of your car. And 90% of their bodies, this is my own calculations that I found through my own research, are dedicated to gladiatorial combat and hunting. This includes any maternal instincts. This is why they eat their young. Now, some of these traits are going to be heavy armor, absurdly strong musculature, extremely sharp mandibles, spines, camouflage, military-grade senses. Yes, that's real. ravenous appetite, blazing speed, tactical intelligence, venom, and even the ability to build traps. There's a species of spider called the ogre-faced spider. It's kind of ugly. It has like military-grade optics, and what it does with its web is it builds a net with it, like a gladiator, that it casts over its prey. And it's amazing to watch. And of course, you have the Sydney funnel web and stuff like that. Bleh.
I've seen videos of that. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, he knows what I'm talking about.
Ninja skills right there.
Yes. Now, what time is it? How fast did I go through that?
Pretty fast.
Pretty fast.
Doing a good job.
Okay. Now we can start with questions. What to take away from this? Insects, arthropods are a lot more important than they're given credit for. This is a huge one. I don't know why people don't appreciate them as much because they're very, very important to the ecosystem. They control everything. If you got rid of them and if you don't count them in, then things would go absolutely rampant and the world would tear itself apart. There's things that they are needed for. Bugs are not bad guys. Stereotypical stigma of insects being evil. I hate this. In comics, how many of you have seen comics where insects are bad guys? Yeah, exactly. They're not bad. They might act bad, but I mean, they're not bad. They do it for a reason. And there's so much potential for character creativity among arthropods, but it goes untapped. This is a huge thing for artists. There's so much you can do with an insect. There's so much creative freedom. Just look at me. I did what I want, and it still works. And now, all in all, you're missing out on this. You could do so much. You could be making so much money, and you could be appreciating this. Now, the floor is open for questions. Anyone?
Well, it's the thing that you were going to say earlier. I forgot what it was. At the very beginning, you said you were explaining it. I lost the question.
Oh, my character being a polymorph.
Yes, that.
Yes,
That's
that's
what I was
actually
looking for.
that's a story. It's about a few pages long about how he earned the ability to polymorph, not gained, earned by defeating a dragon.
How long ago was it?
This I've had it all my life. This is the first one I've ever made, and I've improved it over time. It's gone through several stages.
Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis?
If crustaceans are arthropods, does that mean Mr. Krabs is a bug?
Of course he is.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Can you feel it, Mr. Krabs?
Yes. Crustaceans, they're big arthropods. Lobsters, stuff like that, shrimp, they're all the granddaddies of the insects. They're the ones that stayed in the water, in the primordial soup, thousands upon billions of years ago. And it's just amazing to watch them hunt because these things are like the big versions of the insects that are walking the earth right now. If you go to the Amazon, you'll find what I'm talking about. Land crabs, stuff like that.
I'm well aware of how big those are.
He knows what I'm talking about. It's a big thing.
Lots of documentaries on it.
Oh yes. This is a huge, very, very important task that I've been trying to uphold, trying to get people to understand why these things are so important. These things are not just evil. They're very important to the ecosystem. They hunt predators, they hunt prey, they control pest species like caterpillars and stuff like that eat your plants.
Then what are mosquitoes here for?
Oh, they're there for predator control too. Well, actually, they're very important to pollination, actually, believe it or not. Although there are things that have taken advantage of them. Come in, you missed everything.
What about a wasp?
A wasp, they do predator control. These things are intensely mean because they have to be. They control the entire predator, phylum. They keep it at bay because they can't have things just running rampant around and destroying everything. Without them, the ant colonies would go rampant through trees and things would fall over onto your houses. Now, this is what brings me back to the prospect of, what am I going to say? The prospect of things evolving over time. Over time, insects were absolutely huge, like bigger than your car. And over time, the things that they had to control got smaller and smaller and smaller. So they evolved to be much smaller too. Even still, if you scale them up, they have amazing abilities. Jumping jack ants. They have the ability on an anthro scale, calculated, to leap over a skyscraper. These are by my own calculations, so don't quote me. Ants, they operate in huge colonies. If you took them up to an anthro scale, they could pick up and carry away the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh yeah. There's even an ant that specializes in killing itself to protect its queen.
Yes, they all do that.
They blow up.
They all do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, not really.
That's
They-
not
they-
science fiction.
They kind of
That's-
blow up.
Wow.
The drones are the only
Doing
ones that
some-
do that. I forget the name of it. And then it brings me back to their behaviors. What was that one I mentioned? Oh, the driver ants. This is a huge one, a very specialized one, because they don't have eyes. They rely on their own senses to carry them away. And they never stay in one place for more than maybe 30 minutes. And so these things drive out entire prides of lions, and they can't go back until they've cleared out. It's like a free spree cleaning for villages, too.
Yeah, I watched a documentary on a village. They literally leave as these ants go in, and they just clean out all the pests in their house.
Exactly. They eat children.
We don't mess with it over the back.
These things eat children. I'm not kidding. These things are dangerous. But it's just so cool. Because you take that up to an anther scale, there are billions of these things. If you took that up to an anther scale, they fill Africa. Like shoulder to shoulder. What's going on here? And this is a huge thing, this image. This shows that these things are much more important than the fish. How many of you know the term bottom feeder? Bottom feeders? Yes, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Horseshoe.
Hagfish.
Yes. Without those things, they would not. This ocean would fill up like a dredge. Without these things, they would be just running rampant. Sharks would grow to like immense size. The megalodon would not exist, or the megalodon would still exist actually. These things are very important to the ecosystem in the water because they get rid of all these toxins and everything. They make sure things stay alive by killing things that would kill them. There's a reason why they're so mean.
So I had a question for you.
Yes.
When did you realize that you were interested in insects?
I've always been interested. I actually had one for a pet for a long time. For about maybe 10 years before it died.
Oh.
Actually, that's where this name came from. I named him Ben after the word vent because he always got out of his terrarium and got into the vents whenever it was hot or cold. You had to turn the heat up or down in order to get him out, and he'd never know where he would pop out. Fortunately, he ended up my neighbors who had a tarantula, and we actually exchanged pets at one time because unintentionally, but I found something crawling up on my leg. I picked it up. I was like, "Is this yours? How are you not dying?" Interesting. And yes, why insects? Many people have asked me this. Why did you want to be an insect? These things are amazing to watch. I've always loved watching them, documentaries and stuff like that. It's just incredible. And of course, I've always believed they're underappreciated as a species. These things have survived longer than anything else. Hey, eat your heart out, dragons. And of course, they are very, very beautiful. If you do some research online, you'll find out that these things are not something to be trifled with. They completely outclass supermodels. It's just amazing. The damselfly is a good example of this. But other ones, like maybe the one you see here, maybe you can just barely see it. There are several species of insects that have ingeniously evolved to not be seen. Maybe you've heard of the lichen huntsman spider, native to Australia. No one has because no one's found it.
I've heard of the bird ant spider.
No.
No.
Really?
No. I'm talking about huntsman spiders. These are the spiders of spiders, spider version 3.0.
Oh. Elaborate, please.
Okay, huntsman spiders have evolved so that the legs are lateral to their body. It's not like they pick up and go down. These things go side to side. That means they can jump and switch. It means they can jump and dash in any direction they want. And they have 360-degree vision. So that means nothing gets by them. It's like the ghost that waits. Other ones, actually, I think I have enough time. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. There might be people with phobias in here.
Do it.
Anyone have phobias in here?
Just animals.
No, everybody.
Yes. Oh, wait a minute. I don't have a connection. Never mind.
Someone would be like,
Okay, so what was the point I was going to make? Oh, yes. These things are actually like big menaces to each other. So you'll see things, if you go out in the wild, you'll see things that are fighting with each other, but you may not see it with your eyes. You have to look closer to these things to understand just how amazing they are. These things don't have skeletons or anything on the inside of their body. They're living suits of armor. So I want you to imagine like a knight of old in a modern time that's a living suit of exoskeleton. It's just amazing to imagine something that tough on an anther scale. Soon. I'm hoping I'm inspiring all of you.
I mean, it's pretty interesting. I never really
Of course it is. I told you I wouldn't disappoint.
I never really
Lead
thought
can be
on
stronger
the
than steel.
Of course it can. It can be even stronger than tungsten carbide. There's a species of spider called the golden orb weaver. Who's heard of this? Mm-hmm.
I've done a lot of research
Who
on
knows
spiders.
why it's called that? This is for a prize.
Okay.
Who knows? Take a guess.
Is the bush canarian?
No.
The silk is actually a
It's the
gold
color
color.
of the thorax.
Weeds and
No. They,
It may
what
be
comes out of the
The
thorax?
silk.
The silk is actually a gold color.
He said it first. He gets a prize. You win these. The maces of whatever you want.
Go slay dragons with those.
Yes, please do. Another question. This is for a big. I don't know. I'm going through the other prizes and then the big one at the end.
So, which arthropods make the best pets?
That's a good question. Tarantulas are a big one. Who knows what kind of tarantulas are good for pets? Or I'm sorry, good for the. There are centipedes that you can get as pets. Who knows which ones they are? The centipedes that you have as pets.
Oh, I don't know
This
this
is a very, very specific breed. It's a region in the Middle East.
And then like that
I've
big.
never
Starts with a B.
Velociraptor?
No. That's a region. No. It's a country. In
I was
the Middle
about
East.
to say camel spider until you said the letter V.
No. Centipede. No one knows this? Starts with a B. Good morning.
Vietnam.
He wins.
That's not the Middle East.
Oh, yeah, that's Asia.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
That's what I got confused.
You meant to
I'm
say
so sorry.
Southeast Asia.
That's okay. You win anyway.
It's adorable. I love it. Sylveon, right?
Now for the last prize. This is a big one.
I don't know what that is.
It's a Gundam model.
Oh.
This is a $50 value limited edition Gundam unicorn. This thing has a transformation ability that does not compromise its structural integrity. $50 value. I'm not joking. I spent money on this. You better answer this right. Now. God, I forgot my question. Give me a moment. I want to give me a moment.
It's a tease.
I didn't plan on running out of questions. Let me stick to my cards if I can read my own handwriting.
It's okay, I understand. I've got terrible handwriting myself.
Give me a minute. Oh yes, okay. Now, who knows what kind of insect is the strongest one in the world?
Yeah.
No.
Been an ant.
No. On a power to weight ratio, there's a species of insect. No. Bigger. You had the right idea with beetle, but it's a different one.
The Emperor's Scorpion.
Goliath beetle?
No. There's no such thing as a Goliath beetle, I don't think. I don't know. Don't quote me on this. I'm not an expert.
Rhinoceros beetle?
Yes.
Oh shit.
Oh my god, I actually got it.
Yes, you did.
Oh wow. I'm gonna work on it.
Nice. Now, does anyone else have any other questions related or not related for me or?
So you
animal?
never told us what your pet was.
Pet was that was a Vietnamese centipede. That's just a commonplace. And you have to have something that's a little bit docile and a little bit awesome to watch. I was searching through the terrariums of all these lizards because I wanted like a conversation starter. And I was looking through terrariums of lizards, snakes, and it was kind of boring to watch them eat because it's just the same thing over and over again. And then I came across this terrarium that had nothing in it. I was like, what's in here? And I looked through this hollowed out log, and I saw these two reflections. Like, you know how you look through an infrared scope and you see like two eyes from like a deer or something? That's what I saw times 6.
Oh god.
And so all of a sudden this thing jumps out and bangs against the glass at me, and it had like maybe 42 legs. And I was like, oh, what the hell? It scared the crap out of me. And so I said, why do you have this? And the tender, he grabbed a live mouse and he said, watch this. He drops it in. 30 seconds later, it's in pieces. You see, these things are very important predators. They control everything. Mice are very, very bad pests to have.
Yeah.
They eat everything that you can have. They clear out your fridge.
They
If you had a
mate
centipede,
like crazy.
oh yes, it is. And even rats and stuff too. They control this kind of stuff. This is why they go around in sewers. They control pests. They make sure that your waste does not go out into that's clean.
Or a good chunk of it. Supposed to get.
But yes, this is a good one that I wanted to discuss, the production of delicacies. There are ants, or actually all ants do this. if they locate something that actually produces something that's beneficial to their colony, they will protect it with their lives.
There's an ant and a type of tree that coexist with one another.
Of course there is.
The ants provide protection for the tree, and the tree provides.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. They guard whatever assets they have with their lives, and they will not deviate from that because it's just how they're programmed. And I want you to think about that on an anthro scale. You can make friends with an ant, you'll guard you for life. It's a friend for life. See, now I'm hoping I'm inspiring you with all these stories.
Yeah. I want to go make a
Soil tilling and fertilization, that's a good one for worms and stuff like that. Centipedes, things that dig through the ground. It's important for digging things from the bottom of the ground up from where the water is. It's a good thing for aquifers. It's a good thing for farms and stuff like that. Some farms actually use insects to control pests.
Oh,
They have wasps or something, or they have beekeepers. They know how important their bees are, and so they have other insects that go around protecting them. It's like a force field. I actually have a good story about this. See, maybe you remember the Zika outbreak.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, everyone remembers that.
Yep.
I was not afraid because maybe remember when I mentioned that there are spiders that live in colonies. This is called tent spiders. These spiders live in huge colonies of mass webs. So they cover maybe like a huge canopy of trees all in one, and they eat like as a whole. So I had a set of those, maybe like a handful, I can't remember how many I counted, that moved into my backyard. And so my backyard was covered in like small webs that you wouldn't see them until you walked into one.
I know exactly what spider you're talking about. I had one in my yard ages ago.
Oh yeah, but these things have not moved on since. They because my backyard is actually kind of humid, and that's where all the mosquitoes and stuff come in. I was not afraid when Zika came through. These things formed an anti-Zika barrier around my house for me. It's amazing because these things control them. And you see what I'm talking about, pest control. The mosquitoes unintentionally carry this virus. That's why they don't die. It's just what they do. And unfortunately, they aren't even aware of it. And so they can't exactly just not stop stinging people. That's how they survive. They survive for millions. Who remembers Jurassic Park? Yeah, the thing in the cane. These things have survived longer than anything you could possibly imagine. They outlasted the dinosaurs, several mass extinction events. It's just awesome to imagine that they survived the primordial. Just imagine volcanoes, lava, destruction, death.
Hey, sponges are still here. I want a sponge sauna.
Yeah, but that's because they stayed in the primordial soup where it's
You
safe.
could just have a sleeping bag and be a shower.
Oh wait, what about mollusks?
Safety is for the weak.
Mollusks have.
That's because they stayed in the primordial soup where it's safe. Weaklings.
They didn't stay on land.
Of course they did. They stayed underground.
Back in the day, them clams used to be like as big as our
Annelids.
to watch out.
And this is another thing I wanted to
First,
discuss real quick.
coelacanths.
What is panel
Full
angios?
sea level.
I didn't have
145.
time. What's that?
145.
I got plenty of time. Jesus. What am I going to do for 45 minutes? I didn't expect to just blow through this so fast.
We can talk about other.
Who has specific questions that they want to know about insects? Come on, don't be shy.
What's killing the bees?
I think that's just the environment.
Okay, I could
The
not.
environment's,
I
I don't know, it's becoming hostile. The heat, though, combined with the humidity, they can't really see. Bees can't fly when their wings are wet, so you can imagine they get grounded, they get starved.
I remember once there was
Pesticides.
this bee that was just crawling on my hand, and its wings were wet. It was just I was just holding it. It wasn't doing anything to me.
Of course, these things don't sting
Yeah.
on provocation. They had to really make them mad.
Yeah, honeybees.
You ever notice? Maybe my good friend Michael McIntyre. Who knows the comedian? The British comedian Michael McIntyre. He did a good example of this called "Bees in the Lofts." There's specific types of people that come in. Maybe you've gone to a picnic. You notice how wasps and bees that come in and eat your food. So there's people who waft them. Just go on. I'm not trying to hit you. I'm just trying to hit the air near you, and you'll know that this is a place where you're not welcome. And then you have the stay stillers. Who knows? Who's a stay stiller? Yes, you people are adamant. You are very, very convinced that your method is the right one, and you'll get very angry with the wafters. How many of you can admit to that? Uh-huh.
You're just gonna piss them off. Stop.
And then you have the total panickers.
Yeah, the screamers.
What about the people who try to feed them?
What's that?
What if you try to feed them?
Those are friends.
Yeah.
We don't hurt friends.
I
put
was
soda on my fingernail. Yeah.
Yeah, they won't really bother you.
Oh,
But you know, the total panickers, the wafters, they never, almost never get stung. You know who gets stung? The stay stillers. I swear to God, this is an actual poll that they had, and this is real calculations. The only people that really get stung on a vast majority, like 90% to 10%, is people who stay still and believe that that's the right way. I found this out, and I had to research it because one of my actual friends, I don't know how I had like the same experience he did. My friend, he has a stay stiller, and a wasp landed like on the side of his face near his ear, and so I was like, dude, you need to get that thing off your face. It looks pretty interested in going into your ear. See, wasps like warm places and searching for places they can have a nest.
No.
That's just their nature. That's
make
what
a
they
nest
do.
in his ear.
Oh yeah.
There's worse thing
And
ever.
so the guy was sweating, so this thing was starting to get pissed off. And so I was like, dude, you need to brush that thing off your face. And he's like, the worst thing I could do is brush it off. And it stung him the moment he moved his mouth. And he couldn't stop because he was so determined to not get stung again. And so eventually a whole bunch of them came in because they were getting really, really pissed off. This one probably sent out a chemical signal sounding the air raid. And we eventually had to vacate the premises because somehow this guy pissed him off. It's like, do something.
We learned.
You
Do
just
something.
have the bug karma.
You know, like
I don't ever
guinea
get
wasps,
stung by
right?
wasps.
This is another thing I wanted to discuss. What's that?
You know, guinea wasps, the little, like, they're mini wasps that have like, they kind of look like yellow jackets, but they're
I think
wasps.
you know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Those are like so much more hostile than
Of course they
than
are.
regular red
Yeah.
wasps. Like,
They're like the angry little people.
yeah, like they will tear you up.
They're like, everyone here knows the Africanized honeybee.
Yes,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
about to
Yeah.
ask. Don't those things sting without provocation?
They
They
are
were-
not exactly in Africa.
Nope.
No, they're everywhere. They're in the United
Yeah.
States.
Well,
And you have to be careful. You have to respect these guys' boundaries, and you have to look for the signs. If you see like holes on the ground that are a little bit big for a snake, like this looks like a rattlesnake hole, but it's a little bit big for that. You'll hear. Just listen onto the ground. Go onto the ground, lay down. If you hear buzzing, get out of there immediately. You've made something mad.
well, unfortunately, it's our fault we have killer bees. Humans made it.
That's the most Africanized past tense.
Yeah.
We did that.
We did that. Was
We
meant to
made
happen.
these things naturally mad at everything. I want you to imagine,
All
maybe
because we wanted more honey.
Yes.
see,
Yeah, they're a
Bug
hybrid.
Universe is kind of like David versus Goliath. Only David has a very, very bad attitude. So insects as nature, well, some of them don't really have this kind of nature, but they're just naturally mad and paranoid. And that's a big thing with centipedes. Even they, as big as they are, and as ultimate predators as they are actually very, very paranoid. That's why they're so jumpy and so eager to get food. It's because they fear everything. It's not exactly they're violent, because they're scared. And you have to realize this, they literally are more scared of you than you are of them. And they sense this because they have the antenna and everything. They can sense maybe 72 things about you that you're feeling. It's kind of like a car, maybe the Mercedes S-Class. Who knows what I'm talking about? The Mercedes S-Class has a thing that says to the driver if he's going sleepy or whatever.
Oh.
And that's amazing because the insects, they do the same thing. They have to do this in order to understand what's going to happen to them. And that's a huge thing because they have no idea. You could just step on one of them and you'll kill the friend for life. These things aren't here to harm you. They're just scared of you.
Yeah, you say that to the giant Japanese wasps.
Of course.
One of them can kill like 40 honeybees.
I know what you're talking about. This is actually a good point to make. The Japanese hornet. This is a hornet that's actually very, very dangerous to humans, and it's not to be messed with. This thing spits venom out of it that actually corrodes the flesh.
It's a Pokemon. Holy crap.
It's the fabled evolution insect. It might be. I don't know. It might be a Beedrill. It might as well be.
Put it
Yeah,
this way.
Beedrill.
Put it this way: only 4 of those hornets could kill off an entire colony of bees.
Of course they can. They're
Oh.
gigantic.
Yeah.
And these things are unfortunately attracted to the scent that your sweat gives off.
Oops.
It's just because that's what they hunt. They hunt live prey.
Are they lethal?
They are
Yeah.
lethal in mass quantities. These things, I'm telling you, one can actually corrode your flesh. I'm talking about like holes. Ooh, it's bad stuff, and it'll give you chemical burns.
It's just as bad as
Where was I going with this? Oh yes, back to the Iliad and the region of Sicily. How many of you have read the Iliad? Literature? Yes. How many of you got the reference?
No, I'm thinking of the Odyssey. I'm sorry.
No. In the Iliad, there's a part of it that said a man was lonely on the island of Sicily, and he looked at the ants on a tree, and he said, "I wish for there to be as many people here as there are ants, because I am lonely and I'm getting tired of this, Zeus." and so Zeus said, "Make it so. Lightning bolt, Hephaestus." And all of a sudden, there was people. And so, Achilles himself led these people into battle because they were willing to die for their land. And unfortunately, they did. These people had, this guy and these people made the idea of having the Trojan horse their genius tactical intelligence. And it's just what they do. These things are very, very smart, unlike what most of you guys might think. These guys are tactical geniuses that are built to kill. Every ant that's born is a born engineer, and they come equipped with weapons of war. If you look at an ant closely, like even a carpenter ant, they have these mandibles that crush, and they're serrated. They're like hydraulic shears. On an anther scale, I've done calculations on this from Wikipedia and some other sources, from the amount of force that they can bite down with. These things, if you had an anther scale ant, their jaws alone, based on their strength, can hold up the roof of this hotel. Either that or they can slice off the lid. It's just amazing to imagine something like that. Imagine just a whole bunch of them constructing things. It'd be like China.
China.
China!
Maybe we should get them to build a wall.
Oh dang.
We should. It'd be done if Bob the Builder out.
And
Like,
we'll
he's a
pay
bitch.
them in sugar cubes.
They would take it too. It's like, this will be great for the queen. Only thing is, they aren't loyal to anyone else. They don't listen to anything else other than the queen.
That's not
Well,
gonna
that's
work
how
for
all
building a
ants
wall.
really are. There's even a specific type of ant that hunts other ants.
Of course there is. In fact, there are a lot of species. The spider hunter.
Had quite a number of times.
Here
Butterflies
goes with the
land.
rosy maple moth.
Is that a really big one?
No, not the really big one. I'm talking about the little tiny fuzzy one.
Yep.
It's a lot of fuzz, and it's very beautiful. It's pink and yellow.
Oh,
Look it up like right
Right
now. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's so cute. But then you can go, it's like a spectrum. You can go from the rosy maple moth to the spiny leaf insect, which is like an alien. And let's see.
They're built for camouflage.
Oh yeah.
You never get
There's
them.
a lot of insects.
Are there some insects that can survive in like cold weather? Or?
Are you kidding me? Yes. There are some insects that have to go into cold weather.
What
What do you
is
think
it?
about low bugs?
What's that?
What do you think about low bugs? Little black bugs.
Little bugs?
You know what bugs are?
Love bugs? Oh yeah, those things. I mean, well, that's just
Everybody
what
has
they
all
are.
under their car.
Look, you don't understand. My car is white, right?
Mhm.
I'm attracted to white. And my car looked like it was a swarm of bees on the side.
Yeah, I know. That's what they do.
And they
I mean,
take
it's
the
not their
paint
fault
off,
that they're
too.
attracted to your car.
Yeah, I know, but I'm like,
I
I
was
need to
mowing
get in
my
my car.
yard.
I don't need to in my
And I
car.
had a white
Then just
shirt
get some.
on.
Just get a leaf blower.
Good, now does that work? I got like water and just.
Be gone, pests.
I think I'll need a flamethrower for that.
No,
I don't want to know my car.
those things be attracted to the flame. Are you kidding me?
Besides,
They had just
Yeah,
be like
like,
a
certainly
little
had,
Africanized
uh,
honeybees on a schoolyard in South Texas when they invaded from Mexico.
Mhm.
Yeah, brought out the
It's the
National
old
Guard and
adage, like a
everything.
moth to a flame. It's just like his white car. These things aren't really aware that your car is not food,
It's
and
just.
so you have to respect them for that. You just have to shoo them away, let them know that they don't belong there. They'll figure it out eventually or not. And that brings me to, okay, what was it? There are a lot of other insects in here that are, according to mythology, very important, but they're kind of lost to time because people aren't interested in them. I don't know why that's going on. Maybe you know the Egyptian, the scarab beetle.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge one. It's referenced in the mummy a lot of times.
Yes.
It is the only symbol of, godlike status, I think it is, that's found in every single temple that they have. Other ones, they just have specific ones that are dedicated to the gods themselves that they go for prayer to. The scarab beetle is the only one that's found in all of them, and they don't know why because they have not found all the texts.
Aren't there any insects that requires significant value for individualism, I think.
There are a few, but I have not been able to get reliable information on that, so that's why I didn't put it in here. There's a lot of conflicting information.
Oh, internet. The internet's never wrong. They never lie to you.
The 9-armed goddess? Something like that. I think they were talking about a house centipede. Who here has run into a house centipede before? Yes, you tell people how big those things are. And tell them how fast they go.
They are really fast and they are pretty big.
You're there in one moment, and the next they're gone, and then the other side of your house. Those things can run. If you took that up to an anther scale, they go maybe sprints, maybe 45 miles an hour. So imagine a car running down the road, like way too fast.
It's just this giant insect just.
And that's pretty much how it runs. What else was I going to discuss? Oh yes, here we are. What's up?
So,
Who had a question? I saw a hand go.
Is the idea of mating discussed much in the insect world? Because
Insects have a very
because
diverse
a lot of times the female bites off the male's head, you know. So
that's praying mantises.
That's only praying mantises.
Yeah, centipedes actually, this is what I was talking about. 90% of their bodies and their mental capacity is dedicated to hunting and killing. The other 10% is dedicated to reproduction. But that's not enough because they have very, very bad tableside manners. So some insects have evolved, say the centipede. This is where it gets, who here is a minor? Do you mind?
Yeah, he's fine.
Okay, good, because there's centipedes have evolved that they don't even unite with each other to mate. The female lays eggs, and the male comes by and he lays a web of his sperm. It's very interesting to know all this because there's such a vast, diverse forms of reproduction that they have that it's impossible to name them all, and there are new ones being found every day. This is how big they are. This is how big of a species that they are. There's literally being new insects that are yet to be found, and they're discovering them every day.
Coming next summer, Kama Sutra for centipedes.
To a theater near you.
It can be ants, it can be flies. Oh yeah, flies are a big one. Flies are basically like the cannon fodder of the insect world. Yeah, people are right about those things.
No.
They are not smart. They really don't do anything.
They're not even supposed to be able to.
The problem is that they're like rabbits. They are very good at reproduction, and that they can't really kill their mates. And so, but there are other species of flies that are kind of predatory, and that they'll fight over their mates because they fight, and it gets kind of violent, and they'll tear apart the female. This is how desperate that they get. So literally, they could destroy their own species.
Look what you've done.
If you research that a little bit, you'll see what I'm talking about, because I'm not going to go into that right now. Horseflies? Oh yeah. Damselflies, botflies. Well, no, not
Botflies.
Yeah, botflies. No. Those things. You want to avoid those things. Those things are bad news, and they probably carry diseases too. That's another thing. Insects aren't really aware that they carry diseases and stuff like that. It's just something that's latched onto them because they're so diverse. And this is a big thing that viruses take advantage of. And so you have to understand, for viruses to take a hold of something that's diverse to insects, like mosquitoes and stuff like that, that's why they're everywhere. So you imagine on something that's as big a scale as the entire Earth, for a virus to infect them and just be a carrier for that, they would go everywhere very, very fast. So viruses know that these things are superior to any other animal to infect or to carry their own virus.
The plague.
Uh-huh.
It was carried by fleas. The fleas were on the rats, and since the conditions were so
Europe
filthy at the
black.
time, the rats were everywhere.
And even in the 1990s, it started happening.
Yeah, but there are some insects that are very good for medical purposes. This is my favorite subject. No, not just maggots. Actually, maggots are used in today's medical treatments. They put maggots on dead and necrotic flesh, and they eat it away, and they won't eat the live flesh. And in the end, they take them out. It may feel weird, but it's totally vital to your survival. This is a good thing to know because it gets rid of burns, it takes away the pain, and it just feels like a little bit of tickling on. Believe me, I had one or two on me because of a bad burn, and you can't even notice it. It's not there anymore. It's gone. Wow. They did a good job. But then there are other ants that are used right now. It's basically like a makeshift medical treatment. They're very, very important. You remember that I mentioned that ants their jaws are like a hydraulic press? There's a method that's used today in Solar's survival books. Who here is in the military? No one? No one's here.
I tried to.
JRTC? Yeah. I mean, have you ever seen a survival book?
Yeah, we had to.
There's if you look in the older World War II ones, if they ever got a cut on them, they'd say find a group of ants and place them on the cut so their heads bite down on it. And they'll seal the cut up after you take the head off. And they won't let go.
Yeah.
You can put your pants on and everything, they won't let go for the life of it.
And animals are very incredibly strong.
And it may be painful and everything, but they're vital.
I think they learned that from the Indians of South America.
They
or something.
did.
Yeah.
That's a lot of things that they learned from ancient legends that still work today, and that's why they're so good, because they worked. That's how they survived so long, and they were able to build all these things.
They're using
Although the pyramids are still a mystery.
bee sting remedies for like rheumatoid arthritis.
Of course they are. It's because they loosen the blood, and I think it's actually because they break down the cartilage or something like that.
I'm not sure. I
Really
forget
soften
exactly
it.
why.
I don't know. There's some type of insect venoms that actually break down. Well, they trigger cell death. And it might sound bad, but in specialized quantities and in specialized places, it can actually be very beneficial because then it would kill. There's actually research going on in using that type of venom that's triggering cell death to treat cancer. And it's proven actually very effective. The problem is getting a hold of it because the insects that carry it are very, very dangerous and they go underground. Centipede is one of them. Oh no, wait, no, that's not it. It's spiders that do that. The spiders that carry these things are almost impossible to find. Who remembers the legged huntsman spider that I had mentioned? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Because these things are living ghillie suits. It's just amazing, and it's kind of nerve-wracking. Because I don't know what planet Australia is from. It's kind of cool to wonder, like, did this thing crash from like a meteor or something, and it's just there? and there's like a toxin that's coming out of it that makes everything bigger.
My English teacher was in the military when she thinks she was in Nevada or the desert.
Desert is
Spiders, tarantulas the size of plates would
good.
jump up in front of them and they just squash them.
It's because it's just amazing. Who here has ever been to like Utah desert or Vegas or anything? Okay, have you ever seen a rain there? After the rain comes, the desert will literally come to life. Who here has seen Riddick?
I've seen a documentary. It's whenever
Who
it rains.
remembers the part of the movie where the things come about when
Yeah.
it starts raining? This is exactly what I'm talking about. These things that are featured in that film are insects. It's the old adage, the small ones are the worst.
There is a type of insect that's close to the computer. They live in the ocean for like years and years, and when they finally come up, they look like clouds coming out of the water.
Spores, yes.
And then it's a mating frenzy, and then they all die.
Of course. It's just like that.
It's gone in like 15 minutes.
They borrowed the reproduction cycle from jellyfish. Jellyfish are actually plants for one stage of their life, pretty much.
Yeah,
It's actually kind of interesting to see, although I don't know much about them because, as you said, they're in the Bermuda Triangle and no one wants to go there. And really, anyone who wants to go there doesn't really come out.
You're referring to the haploid diploid cycle of the.
Kinda. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. I'm not really too familiar with that, although. Getting back to reproduction, there are so many cycles of reproduction. There's the chrysalis stage, there's the imago stage. I'm talking about butterflies right now, if you don't know. The imago stage, the word imago is very, very important to this. It's the word that means individual. It's becoming individual, more specifically. This is a very, very important word in insects because most of them go through stages in their life. Scorpions, kind of exempt from this because they give birth to live prey. Or, not live prey, well, technically it is, but live children. But the problem is that they can also eat their own young. So once they get detached from the mother, you know how they would go onto their backs and they get carried around? Who knows what I'm talking about? Scorpions. Yeah, once they get detached from their mother, they are on their own. If they die, they're dead. Their mother will not come. You had a question?
Oh no.
I thought you had your hand up. What else is there to discuss? Who else has a good subject for me? Butterflies, centipedes, caterpillars. What's that? Cockroaches, ooh, these are my favorite kind of bugs. Maybe Uncle Kanye can attest to this because maybe he's researched this. Cockroaches are like the ultimate survivors. There's one species called the giant cockroach that lives in Central America. It can disguise itself with leaf litter. These things have evolved to eat literally anything. They can eat undigestible matter. It can eat things that will make a billy goat puke. It's like the Green Beret of the insects. These things are built to survive, and they're built tough. And they're the most effective insects in survival, and that's because they have armor on their side. These things have hard beam cases, hooded armor. I forget what it's called. It's on the front. It's on the front of the prothorax. That's the front thorax. And they have huge eyes that they can use. There are some species of insects that actually have better vision than cats and owls. Not senses, vision. This is what I'm not kidding about the military-grade senses. Who remembers the orca-face spider that I mentioned? And this thing, it relies on that type of vision in order to cast its net. It's just amazing to watch. As I said, it's very sensitive, it's very fast, and you have to watch it in slow motion to happen because on an anthro scale, you have to imagine these things move maybe 30 miles an hour whenever they do anything. It's just amazing to imagine.
I'm captivated by how quickly
it's in a blink of an eye.
it just happens. It's like the trap spider.
The trapdoor spider, it'll come
Yeah,
up.
the trapdoor spider.
There are some insects that display different behaviors, such as you said, the trapdoor spider. It's a preferred ambush predator. Other ones, the centipede, it's a sworn enemy. This thing goes around wandering like a serial killer. It hunts down actively. But the thing is, most insects that do that are not able to see. They rely on chemical detection and stuff like that. And it's amazing to imagine. Imagine being able to smell someone from across town and know that they're there. It's like, hey, did you just get into town? No, I know you're lying.
I smell
You owe
you.
me money.
I've known some people like that you could smell across town, but I mean
That's-
that's
It works.
that's on them.
It works if they're furries.
Terrible height.
Yeah.
You didn't follow the 621 rule.
Yeah. I was actually watching my neighbor's hummingbird feeder the other day, and the hummingbirds were doing their thing, and there was a dragonfly that kept trying to grab one of the hummingbirds.
Of course, these things are predators that most people don't realize.
Yeah.
That's what I call dragonflies, not
Yeah.
damselflies.
Yeah.
How people look at are the little crickets that they little holes. You know what I'm talking about?
I know
Mole crickets.
There's grass. The ones that are my favorites are the raspy crickets. These things make other crickets pushovers. Yeah, you're talking about the green crickets, right?
Like, yeah, they're like little brown and
Mole crickets.
yeah, mole crickets.
Yeah, brown crickets. That's what you're talking about.
Those are so cool,
They're
like-
called brown crickets.
Yeah, they look like a little crab
They're
or something.
brown and they come up during a specific season when it's
Really
mating
stuff
time. That's the ones you usually see like hopping around up the side of buildings because they
Yeah.
come up and then they try to go underground after they've mated and they die.
Now he's not talking about the black ones. He's talking about the mole crickets.
Like
The brown ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see those too.
Okay.
But yeah, it's usually mixed in. You'll see what I'm
Okay.
talking about if you look closely because it's really easy to mistake them. That's another thing that insects do, mimicry.
Yeah.
They mimic the behaviors of other animals. Spiders, they'll rear up their front two legs so that they look like ants if they ever get caught in one of those swarms. It's amazing to see.
There's a specific type of wasp that I'm amazed about.
What's that?
And I don't remember what it's called, but it actually hunts a specific spider.
Yeah, of
It
course.
lays its young egg, and then the young eats the spider from the inside out.
Yeah, these things are specialized predators and very, what do you call it? Specialized in
Hunting.
no, not hunting. It's kind of like a preference because they know these spiders go off to other places and see other nests.
Yeah.
But then there are ants, which they have queens, you know, and then they have what I call princesses, which is basically like nuptial queens. They are the ones that have wings, and they fly off. And after they've mated, they do something amazing. They tear off their own wings. Afterwards, they become the queen of that colony, and it's just amazing to see them watch flourish and build a colony. And that's when they start tilling the soil unintentionally, as I said.
And sometimes these half of the colony, when a new queen's born, whenever she flies away, half of the colony will just leave with her.
Of course, it's amazing to watch because there are some species of ants that don't even need a queen or another mate for their queen to produce their young. Yeah, have you ever heard of the term cloning? Black crazy ants, you know these things, they move really, really fast. These things don't actually need mates or male drones in order to reproduce. They're called, well, it's literally called cloning. They'll make literal copies of the queen in a servant form, so that they are. It's basically like sterile females. It's just a drawback from the cloning procedure. Sorry, my words are escaping me. And this is like a touchy subject. I'm not too familiar with it yet. That's what's the word I'm looking for? Well, it'll just be their servants. I mean, it's just what they do. It's their nature in order to serve their queen. And so when they're sterile like that, it's just they have nothing else to do.
We just do what they're told to do.
It's just the antenna kind of thing. It's just how they receive information. If one dies, they receive the air raid siren immediately. This is a thing with protecting the queen and protecting the young. If you see an ant colony being overturned, the ants will not fight it to the death. Ones will, specific ones like male drones and stuff like that, they'll actually save the young and then save the queen. And they'll run off to come back.
Reclaim this.
Exactly. These things, there's some insects that actually hold grudges.
Okay, I gotta know, what are the, I've always seen these, and I've always been curious, but I've never looked it up. The little big fuzzy ants that's on the ground, those are really
Those are
fast.
wasps.
Velvet
Those
ants.
are wasps.
Yeah, those are wasps. This
Yeah,
is what
it's
I was
a-
talking about.
The one that, no wings?
The males have wings.
Oh, you're talking about the red wasps.
Yeah. they're
No, he's
fuzzy
talking
red
about
wasps.
velvet
They call them-
ants
they call
that
them
are they're
wolves.
actually a wasp, but the males are the only ones with wings.
Oh.
There's
And the
something like
females
that,
are the big
but,
ones that run
there's
around.
a specific type of wasp called a red wasp. I'm glad you bring this up because there's this is actually this is my favorite kind of wasp. It has an exoskeleton that's so hard it can actually withstand being stepped on,
Yeah,
You can step on it and do this.
yeah.
and it'll be like a
It'll
rock.
just make it
It'll
mad.
just go,
Yeah, they actually make noises and they'll just get
it'll
mad.
squeak, it'll be like,
Angry moth noises.
I
You
didn't
may
know
not
those
realize that
wasps.
moths actually make noise. And then we have, as I'm discussing like insect behaviors, I want you to imagine these things on like Andor scale. Oh, what's up?
scary.
So I mean, it may be a bit scary, but imagine them as like a civilized kind of thing. Because if you take like what I have here, the insects are not very much bad guys. They just do what they need to do, and they do it well.
Insects are amazing
Excuse me.
creatures.
They are very amazing creatures in that they're very, very good at controlling specific kinds of the animal kingdom. This brings me back to the thing where I mentioned eat your heart out dragons. They are very good and much better at what they do than most other species, like wolves. They get, they hunt in packs and stuff like that. These things hunt in swarms. It's very, very similar, except it's unstoppable. There's no chance for you to escape. There's few sites on the Andor scale that could be more terrifying. But imagine more friendly kind of things in groups. Say like what I have here. It's basically like my stupid freewheeling thing. I don't know why this mouse has a free spinning wheel as the cursor. There we go. I don't know why they didn't have a protector screen for me. But this brings me back to, yes, this is the image of describing like why they're better. Because these things are living suits of armor. On an Andor scale, these things would be stronger than tungsten carbide. It's chitin fiber. This is natural forming armor that's very, very strong. And maybe you've seen Spider-Man. How do you think he got to be so durable?
Spider.
Yes, it's like living. Well, spiders are actually soft-bodied, but it's like leather armor. So imagine that on an Andor scale. It'd be like, what can I describe this? It's just a flexible Kevlar. It's kind of cool to imagine, isn't it? So insects that have hardened bodies, like centipedes and stuff like that, they're protected top and bottom all around by their own skeletons. And these skeletons have evolved to be much harder than usual because they support the entire body, which is filled not with brains but with muscle. So they have a better power to weight ratio than pretty much every other animal in the world, including, well, discounting crustaceans, because those are another thing entirely. They have bigger brains. Who here knows of leafcutter ants?
I do.
Have you ever encountered a leafcutter ant soldier?
Very big.
Yes, very big. And it's not their. Yes, these things have heads that outclass their own bodies, And it's not because they have big brains, it's because they have a lot of muscle in their jaws that are very small, very sharp. These things can punk out bull ants like they're bitches. They're very good at protecting the colony because they're not really violent creatures, they're vegetarians. They carried away leaves, you've probably seen them doing
I've
that.
seen it.
What do you think they use leaves for?
I don't actually know. I really don't know.
They grow mushrooms. They're growing
They
fungus.
grow fungus, and then they feed off that fungus. They're vegetarians, and that's what they do. They control the vegetation so they can feed off of it in indirect fashion. It's so cool to know. What time is it now? What time is it now, Lynn?
Time is
Who knows when this ends? Damn it, we're out of time.
We're all
Anyone
out
have
of
any other questions?
That's interesting.
What is interesting?
I told you I wouldn't disappoint you guys. I'm sorry I ran out of things to talk to you about.
Oh, it's okay.
I expected to talk a lot more on this presentation, but it went a lot faster than I thought, even with the technical difficulties, so thanks for bearing with me.
Oh, that's okay.
Yay.
It's quite informative too.
Yeah, who here feels inspired?
You're
Of
also
course.
like the first person
Who here is actually an artist that I've touched?
I'm not an artist. I can draw.
Anyone here an artist?
I am.
Nobody? I'm not. Oh, you're an artist or
Yeah.
photographer?
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of artists that actually aren't photographers that do insect art. They take close-ups and stuff like that. It might be a little weird to look at, but after you see like the beauty of the evolution that they've gone through, it's amazing to see. Imagine like what they were maybe millions upon millions of years ago, where they were the size of a bus.
Yeah, I actually do quite a bit of macro photography of like I'll go out in parks and just doing plants and
things
bugs
like
and stuff. Yeah.
There, you may not realize this, but as I said, I used to have one for centipede for a pet. These things are the type that eat bats. So this is exactly what I was talking about. Insects can punk out other species like they're bitches. Eat your heart out, everyone. So as I said, anyone here who has an insect character on them or ever had one? No one? Well, I hope I've interested you. I hope I've turned you around to the idea now. Alright, that's the end of everything. Thank you for coming. Who knows what's next after this?